Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. And this time we are talking about books that are green, Irish, and lucky, as St. Patrick's Day is coming up shortly. As we talk about the titles, they will appear on your screen as well as the various formats that they are available in through the Monroe County system. If you are interested in getting your hands on any of these titles, then there are several options available to you. The first and possibly the quickest is to simply call your local branch of the Monroe County Library System and talk to the staff there and let them know which titles you're interested in. The next way, if you'd like to do it yourself, you can go onto our online catalog and request physical versions, hardcovers and paperbacks, etc. Or if you're interested in the digital format, audio or ebook, we have two different platforms for that. The first is Overdrive, and the app for Overdrive is called Libby. And Overdrive offers downloadable ebooks and downloadable audiobooks. And then there's also Hoopla, and Hoopla offers downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, as well as movies, music, and graphic novels. And the bonus for using Hoopla is that there's never a wait for any of the items on Hoopla. As soon as you see it, you can download it. And with us this week to talk about our green, Irish, and lucky titles are myself. I'm Jennifer Granuski. I'm the community librarian at the Dundee branch. And our introductory question this week is, what is something, do you have a lucky charm? Do you have a ritual? Do you have something you do that makes you feel lucky? And I thought about that, and I really don't think I do. But in thinking about things that I do daily that at least make me feel like today is going to be a good day, we started off on the right foot. I think it's actually the different sounds that I have set up on my phone. So when my alarm goes off in the morning, it's the song that it goes off to is This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. And that's just such a powerful song that says, it's good to be you. Whoever you are today, however you're feeling, that's what you should be. Like, this is me, world, you just need to accept it. So I have that set up on my phone. And then my notification sound is actually the trolley sound from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So great. When I hear that throughout the day, it's like a reminder to be kind and channel my Mr. Rogers and let other people know that we accept you for who you are in this moment, whatever that may be. So those aren't really lucky charms, but they are sort of rituals that I feel make my day better. So maybe that's sort of a lucky charm, that belief that that's something that helps make my day better. So that's what I'm going with. Also with us this week are Ashley Lyford, who is the community librarian at the Summerfield Petersburg Branch Library. And do you have any lucky charms or rituals, Ashley?
I don't.
Can you make one up for us?
I tried to think real hard about this. And I just don't. I mean, I guess I have a fun song to wake me up too. You know, I love me some T-Swift. So my morning starts with her. But I guess I just am not really a lucky kind of, person. I just don't.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Well, good talking to you, Ashley. Thanks. Thank you, Ashley. Also with us this week is Sarah Willarios, who is a sub for the Monroe County Library System and has worked in a lot of our branches. And do you have any lucky charms or lucky rituals, Sarah?
Not like now, but in college, I did like my lucky number is 21. I don't know where that came from. I guess playing basketball and stuff. And then my daughter, her number in school is 21. So now she calls it her lucky number. But during college years, always taking a test, I had to wear like the same hat, like the same baseball hat. Like it kept me focused on what was going on around me, not watching the clock on all the time tests. So I haven't had any since then, but that's about it. And now I'm trying to think, like, where did that hat even go since it was like so lucky, I don't even think I still own it. But no, I do say, like, when you think of like Friday the 13th, because it's last year at this time, I was like, oh, it's going to be a great day. It's Friday the 13th. You know, that's going to be our lucky day. It's not going to be a bad day. COVID shut everything down that day. So it's like, I don't know now. Now I'm like, man, we'll just roll with the flow. And
I had forgotten that was a Friday the 13th that all that went down. I had forgotten that. I knew it happened on the 13th, but I had forgotten that it had been also a Friday.
Right. So those are the only days that I think of like, oh, it's going to be lucky today, right? We're going to have a good day.
Cross our fingers and hope for it. Thanks, Sarah. Also with us this week is Jen Mccarty, a reference librarian at our Ellis branch. Do you have any lucky charms or lucky rituals?
I'm trying to come up with something. I guess I really don't either. I kind of have like, I don't even have a fun song anymore. I used to, which I think is kind of entertaining. And I'll tell you a quick story about that. I used to have my phone set to go off with, I can't even think of the name of the song. It's the Everything is Great, Everything is Grand, from Ashley knows, the Muppets, the newest Muppet movie. It was one of the songs from that.
Oh, okay.
And entertainingly enough, that was my alarm clock, and I have it set, for like every day. And so a couple of years ago, we went to Philadelphia for the Public Libraries Association conference, and Ashley and I both went. And our flight left like crazy early, and my phone went off on the plane. And like when we got off, Ashley was like, "Hey, did you hear the Muppets?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that was me."
So that was my Muppets.
I'm gonna get away by telling a story and not actually having an answer. I really don't have any. Like I have things that I wear every day, and like I feel weird without them. Like I wear the same earrings every day, and I wear the same jewelry every day. Nothing extravagant. Like it's not even my real wedding ring because it doesn't fit anymore. But like I wear, I don't know if it makes me feel lucky, but like having those little things that I wear every single day, and like I feel weird if I don't have them on. It's just part of my routine. It's part of my getting ready. Like if I don't have that, then I just feel like everything is not right. So I guess maybe my jewelry that I wear every day.
We'll take that. Andrew told us just a story, so you're good. All right, and now we're going to start sharing our titles. And we're talking, and we made this kind of open-ended because to try and find a book that would be like about St. Patrick's Day or only books set in Ireland. So we gave more options. So we could pick books that were green, either had green covers or green in the title. We could pick books that were Irish, set in Ireland or written by an Irish author, or books that have lucky in the title. So that's why we're going with green, Irish, and lucky. And to get us started, let's have Ashley kick us off.
Okay. So I really struggled, excuse me. I really struggled choosing titles, but Jen helped me with one of them. Also, my cat is trying to eat my straw, so gotta watch that. So my first title that I will talk about because I know it better is Dark Fever by Karen Marie Moaning. This is book 1 in a series, and the whole series is fantastic. Book 1 starts with Michaela is the main character. Her sister was murdered, and so like the book starts and Michaela's out by the side of the pool, I think. Like I can actually remember this book, which is impressive for me. That's saying something. So her sister was murdered, and she left a clue of a text message to Mac's cell phone. So it's just no, it's not a text, it was a voicemail. Chewy, come here. And this voicemail makes it so Michaela, or Mac is what she goes by, goes to Ireland to search for answers. And it goes from there, but basically it's kind of supernatural. She's kind of magical, but there's like, it delves in with the Fae and all that jazz. It's really good. Jen, do you have anything to add?
I would say with the first book probably isn't as intense, but as they go on, they're a little racy.
They are racy.
If that's something that you don't like, maybe stay away from it. If it's something that you do like, then these are really good.
Yeah. I mean, either way, they are really good. You could always just kind of skip past those parts. But it is a very
characters are awesome.
Yeah. Yep. And so the other title I chose was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. This is not lucky or anything, but the author's name, last name is Green, so it works. And I really like this title because it portrays very realistically like living with a mental illness. In this book, the main person has OCD. And she's like terrified of getting an infection. So she like constantly opens this callus on her hand because she's certain there's like a bad infection in there and she needs to get it out. So that's part of the story, is like her living with mental illness, and it's portrayed very real. And John Green actually wrote about this because OCD is something he has struggled with for his whole life. So this was the first time he wrote about something that he felt personally, really related to. So that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that so it's about kids in high school. There's 3 main characters. I'm trying to think. Asa, Daisy, and Davis. So Asa and Daisy are best friends, and they discover that one of Asa's old friends, his dad, has gone missing, and he's being investigated for fraud. So there's a $100,000 reward for information leading to this man, and Daisy and Asa decide to start searching for him. So it goes kind of along there, and they meet. Well, she knows his son, but she hasn't talked to him for a while. So they meet his son, and there's some teenage drama and some teenage romance. It's a good book. If you've read anything by John Green, you know that he's amazing, and you should read all of his stuff.
Thank you.
This is, I think, the only John Green I have not read.
What, really? I was really drawn to it because of the mental illness side.
Thank you, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
And let's have Sarah share her green, Irish, and lucky titles next.
I had a hard time trying to decide, only because every title I thought of at first was like, oh, that's Ireland, or it was a Christmas book. And I was like, well, those won't quite work. So I was like, I had to think, like I had to go back through Hoopla, which I read on. I had to go back through Overdrive on my Kindle. And then like I have a Pinterest page of books that I have read, because often when you're in the branch, a lot of people will ask you, what do you read? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, at first, I'm like, okay, let me ask you, what do you like to read? Because this is literally like my brain. My brain with music is like this. My brain with books is like this. Because I have a YA, a historical fiction, and then I have, which I call swanky books, which are your kind of risque-ish, if you don't like to hear certain words, yeah. So I always ask, but this is what I read. I'm all over the board, which is kind of comical. So the first one, let's talk about the swanky one. That's The Awkward Path to Getting Lucky. And this one I read during COVID, and I was like, Ashley, like, man, did I really read this one? I can't remember, but I did once I got to thinking about it. So there is a young lady, and now I can't think of her name, and I was going to write it down and forgot. And she has been with her boyfriend, Ryan, for 2 years. Well, they haven't been able to do anything for 2 years. So she is like talking to her friends, and her friends, she's running a bakery. So she like, well, it's been stress, trying to open up a bakery. Her friends got kids, it's life, it happens. And her friends are like, no, we're too young for this. Like, this doesn't happen when you're almost going to be 30. Like, this should not be happening. What are you talking about? It doesn't work. So then, so you're going to hear like some hoo-ha terms in here, because they have this whole big word that they describe it on why it doesn't work. So they recommend her to go see a therapist. And she's like I have to talk about it? They're like, no, like a sports therapist. She was like, how is he going to help me? Well, come to find out, the sports therapist that she goes to get help for is like one of her best customers, who is in every week ordering dozens of cupcakes for all his clients. So she's like, oh, I have to go talk to him about this, and he comes into my business. So it gets really funny. And, you know, the author automatically apologizes at the very beginning of her book. Like, sorry, Mom, I wrote this book, but it was so funny. It does exist. Women do have these problems. It comes on, I guess, after birth, but I had no idea. So I was like, okay, good to know. But yeah, that one was like real laugh out loud funny, which I thought was really good, like especially during like now when you need to laugh, you know, we're coming out of this pandemic. But it also has she also puts in the recipes for her cupcakes too. So you can bake her cookies and cream cupcakes and her strawberry cupcakes, which I think is always awesome in books when authors do that. And I've often wondered, like, are they the author's recipes? Is it someone in the family? Is it the publisher? Like, how do those recipes get in there and now they're published and all over the world? But I haven't looked that up yet. And then my other one was a YA book, which is called Chase and Lucky. And this is about your first love. So it's kind of like that sweet first romance. Josie is living with her single mom. So Lucky is the boy's name in the book, and Josie is the girl, and they were best friends until 12. So Josie's mom and grandma got in this huge fight. So they packed her up in the middle of the night and just left. They were moving all over. Her mom is an artist. So Josie is like getting into photography. Her dad is a national, like somewhere in Hollywood producer, photography artist. So she's like, I am just going to get through school, get what I need to do. I'm tired of packing up in the middle of the night. I'm tired of moving around. I'm tired of not being able to have a steady foundation. So she fantasizes that her dad got remarried and has these kids. So, you know, they're all living this great life. And she's like, all I want to do is just get through school, get this so I can go work under my dad, take pictures, and just get out of here. Well, grandma calls and the aunt calls and says, well, you need to come back home and run the bookstore. They're going on a mission trip. So they come back. So Josie gets to see Lucky. And, you know, first he was mad at her. So then it goes like that. And then they get in trouble like normal teens do. So you get to follow like what they do and what they don't do. So there's a little family drama with the argument, but it's a good, clean romance book for YAs, especially those who are reading, you know, above their reading level when they come in and ask, because we get that too. So, but I thought it was really great read. It was like, oh, it kind of reminds you of what like sweet romance when you first get together, like what young love is. So I thought that one was really good. And then my other book is a historical fiction, which this one is about the Holocaust in Poland, and it's in 1939, and it's the Kurik family during World War II. And what I thought was interesting about this book is that the great-granddaughter wrote the story. So she put together the family's history and the family stories and put them in a book. So it's not quite like written fluently, you know, if she was a current like author and writer, you know, and it gets a little messy if you don't like following, because, you know, every chapter is a different person's story, because there's the parents and then they had 5 siblings and what they all endured. So every person had a different story to tell in this book, but I loved it because you got to know like how they split up, where they went, what they did, and what they endured. And I just love history, and the Holocaust is one of my favorite things in history just because of how it happened, why it happened, and how did we let this happen? But this family is amazing, and the stories they told and the way she wrote it was really good because she didn't like fluff anything. It was like, okay, grandma said she did this, grandma said she did that, you know, then she has aunts and uncles. So I liked it. Some people, when I was reading up on it to refresh my memory, some people didn't like it because you flipped between one character and the next character, and then you had to remember where they were and how they got to where they were. But I'm not going to spoil the end of it, but it is a good not family read, but it's a good story about a family and how they endured the Holocaust and how they fought for their lives, which me personally, I don't think I could have lived during that time. I think I would have not have made it past maybe a week. But maybe I'm stronger than what I think. But I thought that was really good too.
Thank you, Sarah. Those are a wide variety of titles. But that's the great thing about reading is it gives you the chance to kind of live all those different lives, that chance to feel the empathy and be in so many different stories. Thank you, Sarah. And let's have Jen share her Green, Irish, and Lucky titles.
Okay, well, I think we'll start with my most St. Patrick's Day book, and it is called Plum Lucky, and it is by Stephanie Ivanovich, or Janet Ivanovich, sorry. This is part of the Stephanie Plum series. I think most of you are probably fairly familiar with Stephanie Plum. She's a bounty hunter. Her regular books start with 1 for the money, and then it's 2 for the dough. They're the numbered, series. Plum Lucky is part of what she calls the Between the Numbers books. And they're really short. They're more novella length, kind of between a novella and regular books. They're a little bit shorter than her regular books. And if you aren't familiar with this series, the main character, Stephanie Plum, is a bounty hunter. She's not particularly good at it. She has a kind of on-again, off-again boyfriend who's a cop, but then she's got another bounty hunter that's kind of her mentor, and he's, super sexy, and she kind of has a thing with both of them. And her grandmother is a little bit crazy, and her partner is a little bit wild. And so, there's all these really, really entertaining characters. And even though this is a series, they're pretty formulaic. They slowly build on each other, but you really don't have to read them in order. And this is one it's between the numbers, so it kind of just fits in there. It goes with the rest of the story, but it's not, you can just read this. You don't really have to know all the other books to read this. And these Between the Numbers books do have a little bit of a supernatural bent because Stephanie meets someone named Diesel, and Diesel kind of pops in and out. Like, I don't really know what his deal is, but he's also sexy because all the men in her life obviously are sexy. And so this particular book follows, Diesel shows up. They are hunting for missing duffel bag that has a ton of money in it. And there's a character who believes he's a leprechaun. Ooh. That's a good time. And it turns out that her grandmother may have found the duffel bag of missing money and is on her way to Atlantic City. So this particular book is just it's a lot of fun. It's funny. You've got the grandma taking the possibly stolen money. There's the mystery of where the money came from, trying to find the money, trying to return the money to whoever. It kind of has all the regular characters. These books are just fun. They're super fast reads. They're really funny reads. They're very light reads. And if you're not really familiar with the world of Stephanie Plum and you're interested in it, the Between the Numbers books are kind of a fun way to start because they're, like I said, there's a little bit more supernatural than the regular books just because of Diesel and the fact that he kind of like literally pops in and out and you're like, what happened there? But there's a couple of them and most of them are holiday themed. Like I think the very first one was actually Valentine's Day maybe, and then there's like a Christmassy one. But Plum Lucky is the St. Patrick's Day story. And like I said, you've got a character who thinks he's a leprechaun, and can you get any better than that? Yeah. So just super fun. I mean, if you're looking for like just a super fun, relaxing, light, quick, this is a good choice. My second book, switching gears a little bit, is called The Iron King, and it's by Julie Kagawa. And this one I chose because cover is kind of greenish. But it's not set in Ireland, but it has a lot of Irish kind of folklore. If you're at all familiar with the Fae or fairies, they're really steeped in Irish culture and Irish folklore. And this book talks about that. So our main character has always kind of felt like she's a little bit different. And I'm totally blanking on her name. So let me double check because I can't remember what it is already. Megan. Our main character's name is Megan, and she's always felt like maybe she doesn't entirely fit in and she's not really sure what's going on. And on her 16th birthday, she finds out, oh, there's a really good reason for that. Your dad is king of the fairies, Oberon. And so she's part fae. She discovers she's part fae. She also discovers at the same time that her best friend that she's had forever is actually fae as well. And he's Puck. His name is Puck. If you were all familiar with A Midsummer Night's Dream from Shakespeare, which is one of my favorite plays, there's a lot of references to that. Oberon is a character in that. So is Puck. And Puck is kind of a mischievous little fairy, and he's a little tricky, but he's her best friend, but he's, you know, he's fun. So this book just kind of focuses on Megan trying to figure out, like, what's going on, like, who am I? And at the same time, she discovers that her little brother has been stolen and replaced with a changeling, which in fairy culture or fairy folklore, not really fairy culture,
But there could be.
It could be, you know. I mean, I don't know about fairy culture. I'm not a fairy, but I'm not fae. But the story of this is, if you're not familiar with changelings, like there was this idea that children would be kidnapped and replaced with a fairy child, basically. And so she discovers this has happened to her brother. So she has to go into, you know, the other world to try to find her rightful brother and get him back, all while trying to figure out, like, how she fits into all of this and dealing with the fact that she just discovered my dad is the fairy king and my best friend is not who I thought he was. It just, if you're at all familiar with, like I said, Midsummer Night's Dream, or if you're kind of interested in the fae, fairy, you know, stories and folklore, this is a really fun place to start because it's a little bit of a different take on it. And it's just a really light, quick, it's a YA, so nothing scandalous. Just a fun book.
Nice. Thanks, Jen. And my two titles. The first one is one that I actually have talked about here before, and usually I always try and avoid talking about a book that I've already talked about. But I talked about Across the Green Grass Fields in our episode where we talked about books we were looking forward to reading in 2021. So at the time that I talked about it, I hadn't actually had the opportunity to read it yet. And now I have. So now I can let you know what I thought. So Across the Green Grass Fields, just to give a quick background, is part of the Wayward Children series that starts with the book Every Heart a Doorway. Oh, and also I just want to mention that the author's name is Shannon McGuire. That is actually a pen name, and as much as Shannon McGuire sounds like an Irish name, she is not Irish. She's from like California. So I looked that up because I was kind of hopeful, like maybe I was going to hit like green and an Irish author, but no. So there you go, Shannon McGuire, not Irish. So this part of Wayward Children series starts with Every Heart a Doorway. And Every Heart a Doorway, you find out about this home for teenagers and children who have been to another world through a portal, which is the door that's referred to in the title. And these worlds that they've been to represent their inner core. It's their heart. So whatever it is that they love the most, that world somehow represented it. And when they were in that world, they felt as though they completely belonged there. But then the world, for whatever reason, rejects them, and they end up back on Earth, back in our world, having experienced what for them was pretty much the perfect place for them. And so this home takes these children in, and in the first book, you find out about a lot of the different worlds where these kids go. It's fabulous. It sounds like a kid's book. It is not. Probably older teens, but there's a lot of adult situations. The first book in particular is fairly violent. And then the books continue and you go into the different worlds where these kids have been. Across the Green Grass Fields is book number 6, and it actually works as a standalone. None of the other characters recur. The school that is in the first book does not exist in this book. So you could read this as a standalone. I think reading the other ones kind of adds depth, but you wouldn't have to. The other thing across the green grass fields is it skews younger. A lot of the adult situations in the violence and the sex that occur in the other ones don't happen in this one. So you could give this to a 13, 14-year-old without a problem. The main character is Regan, and she is a middle schooler, and she desperately wants to fit in. She knows she doesn't really, but she's worked really hard over, the 6th, 7th grade to make sure she fits in. In fact, she's done some things to some of her friends that have hurt them because she wants to fit in to the inner circle group. And then she gets some news from her parents that sort of changes her world. And she finds this out. She's devastated. She goes on a walk. She stumbles through a portal and ends up in the world that represents her heart. And hers happens to be a world filled with horse creatures, centaurs, unicorns, you name it. If it's a horse creature, it's there. And in this world, humans are very unusual, and lore has built up around humans that it is the humans' job to save the centaurs and the unicorns from the ruler in that world right now. And the world is called the Hooflands. So Regan gets there and she starts preparing that this is what she's going to have to do. She's going to have to save the Hooflands. And the book goes on from there. It's really good. It feels much more like a fable with a lesson than the other books in the series ever did. It does skew a little younger, but unicorns, centaurs, I can't resist. So I really loved it. I think if you want an entry into the world, I don't know that I'd start with this one, but it's fabulous. Shana McGuire, I'll read any book in this series, no matter what. So very good. If you like unicorns, you like fables, you like people trying to save worlds and figure out who they are in the process. It's a good book. They're all very short too. They're usually right around 200 pages. The other title I chose is a Maeve Binchy title. And Maeve Binchy always gives me the warm fuzzies. I started reading Maeve, me and Maeve, going to be on first name basis here, when I was in college, and she wrote, Circle of Friends. She wrote Light a Penny Candle. She writes a whole bunch of titles, and she is Irish. And all of her books, well, I guess I shouldn't say all. I haven't read them all. So she could have a book out there somewhere that's not set in Ireland. But the vast majority of Maeve Binchy's books are set in Ireland. She was born in County Dublin, Ireland. She wrote books for a long time. She passed away in 2012, so she is not publishing currently. And when I've spoken about her before, but it was for the last book that she published, which was set at a bed and breakfast in Ireland. Evening Class was kind of in the middle of her popularity, and it's one of my favorites. It's set at what sounds to me like a community college in Dublin. So it's kind of a down at the heels college. It's Mountain View College. And Signora is going to teach an Italian class. She doesn't know how much interest there's going to be. She's not sure if it's going to fly, but she is at a point in her life where she needs to do something a little different. So she decides to offer an Italian class in the evening. That's the name of the book, Evening Class. For anybody who's interested in taking beginner's Italian. And if you know Maeve Binchy's stories, that's she always brings together a group of very different people, and all of them end up connecting. And I think that's what I love about her books, is she shows this desire for us as humans to want to connect with others, and then she makes it happen. So in this one, you get a Latin teacher who comes, and he comes with his wife hoping to revive their marriage. And that's Aiden. You also get a bank clerk, Bill, and his sort of flaky fiance, Lizzie, and they're just looking for something to be able to do for each other. And then you get Kathy, who's really young, the youngest one in the class, and clearly something has happened to her that's been traumatic. And she's taking this to sort of escape from her regular life. You get Connie, and we don't know a lot about Connie except she's got money and she's got a secret. So nobody's real sure why Connie's even coming to this class, because it doesn't seem like something she would be interested in or even need to do. And then you get Lou, and he's glowering and mysterious, and he's taken the class as a cover potentially for a crime he might have committed. And then you get Senora, who's teaching the class. And so you learn about each of these different characters' lives. Like I said, they all end up connecting, and they end up actually planning a trip together to go to Italy. They get so excited about this class. And it's just, she does really good. I guess what, in library land, we'd probably put it under domestic fiction, where you learn about people's lives and the complications and the heartaches and the things they struggle with. And yet she always ends it on a hopeful note. Even if it isn't a happy ending per se, there's always hope in her books. And it's been a long, long time since I've read her, but she's on my shelf of books that I actually have purchased. And looking at this, and she came to my mind right away because I'm like, Maeve Binchy, she's Irish. So any of her books are fabulous. This just happens to be one of my favorites that I read by her. And I even talked our book club into reading it a few years ago. And it's one of those kind of unusual books for book club, because our book club always jokes that we read books that are doom, death, and destruction. That seems to be, because there's always something discussable then, like if bad things are happening, you can discuss that. And this was kind of an unusual choice for us because there isn't a whole lot of doom, death, and destruction. There's struggles, but she's just a lovely writer. And so pick up Maeve Binchy. I'll stop gushing about Maeve Binchy. Pick up a Maeve Binchy book. So thank you to all of you for sharing your green, Irish, and lucky titles. Thank you to those who listened. And next time, we are going to be sharing books about women in history, because March is Women's History Month. So that's what we'll be doing next time. Thank you. Have great weeks. Bye.